A popular kayaking spot in Rensselaer County could soon be going away. The Dunham Reservoir is at risk of being drained and the dam removed. On Live at 5 tonight, I showed you how much it would cost the state to fully revamp the dam and bring it to today's standards. Right now, it's deemed unsound and a high risk for flooding if it should fail. But if the dam is removed, that leaves a lot of questions. Questions that people who live near the reservoir are concerned aren't being taken into consideration by the state. A flotilla of kayaks surrounded the boat launch on Dunham Reservoir Thursday, calling for this peaceful spot to be preserved. Jay McDermott is one of said kayakers. She owns a wedding venue near here called Greywhack Meadows, and she's worried about the future of this man-made lake.
My wedding couples come down here and take gorgeous photos at the water's edge. Now look at it.
She says the state lets her have up to 200 people in her venue for each event. But with the reservoir potentially going away, that leaves a problem. Fire. The water in the reservoir is already dropping. The New York State Parks Department says this is to alleviate some of the pressure on the dam. But at a press conference Thursday, citizens pointed out this is where they pulled water to fight fires. And now the pipe that leads to a dry hydrant is above the water line.
With the hydrant being dry, with the pipe now obviously above the water line, I mean, is that a safety concern? Is there a way to fight fires out here if it stays this way?
The dry hydrants are here for a reason, to access water from our many lakes, and it's definitely a public safety hazard beyond. And I was not aware of this until a week ago Monday.
So if let's say there was a fire tonight, heaven forbid, I mean, how would you fight the fire? Could you?
The Chief Goyer of the Grafton Volunteer Fire Department has let me know that he would have capacity with tankers, but he'd be relying on our fellow municipalities for that help. When we have the resources right here to do it ourselves.
Time is everything with that. Time is everything.
Exactly, yes. Time is everything. How long will it take a tanker to get to a house next door when this is right here, albeit uncovered and dry?
Every dime we had went into that business. If we have to wait 15 minutes, longer because they have to come from another water source, that's detrimental. And none of the residents should have to deal with that at their houses, let alone a wedding venue.
Fire is not the only concern. Some residents are worried about having to redig their wells if this runs dry. In a one-on-one interview with the regional director for New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, I asked about that.
That might be something we need to look into, again, for the decision-making process. I learned of that only at the public meeting, and we'd have to take we'd have to hire a hydrologist to figure it out.
The other concern? Flooding.
We have questions too about that. If there's no dam, what happens when there's storms? Will the damage be greater and more frequent downstream? So we need those questions answered.
This map from the Parks Department was shown to residents at a public comment meeting about the project. It shows what would flood if the current dam had a sudden failure. I asked Balchinian if the floodplain would be similar if the dam was removed.
We would have to study it, but I think our immediate concern is this architecture that is old and needs to be repaired, and we have to kind of sensibly assess what options do we have and where are we going to find that funding.
Senator Jake Ashby and Assemblyman Scott Bendett say there's an answer.
We just put over $400 million into an environmental protection fund. So the money is there, and I think that this would really be a very useful way to use that money and to make sure that the state continues to fulfill its obligation to the people of Grafton and the people of Rensselaer County.
If that money can be used, relief for the people here.
It's just a really great resource here in this area for people to take an hour after work and just come here and relax and chill out.
Now, I reached out to the governor's office to ask about using the EPF funds, and I'll let you know if I hear back. In the meantime, Parks says it's focused on replacing the 4 valves in the dam for now. The decommission, as of right now, is not on the agenda. So let's take a closer look. What's wrong with the dam? First and foremost, those valves need replacing. So the Parks Department is working on getting that design phase done. Next, according to Parks paperwork, they need to waterproof the valve chamber, repair the inlet structure, and stabilize the spillway. The Dunham Dam is both unsound and a high risk. The categories on the left side of your screen relate to the dam itself, like what is falling apart or isn't falling apart on the dam. The categories on the top relate to what could be damaged if the dam were to fail. In this case, Dunham is unsound and a high risk, so it places the dam in that red, high unacceptable risk category. So what would be the cost to replace the dam? Well, first, the state could do a full replacement, a cost of $20 million. The second choice would be $9.6 million. That would remove the dam but restore the stream, creating a wetland that the Parks Department says could still be used for fishing or hiking, just no longer boating. The last option would cost $6.1 million. Remove the dam and not restore the wetlands. Still available for recreation, the state says, but little extra help to nature. Now, removing the dam and draining the reservoir bring concerns for people when it comes to their property values, too.
Is there any impact on anybody here on property value? I mean, I know if you live next to a reservoir, obviously that's a draw for a lot of people. Any impact on property value?
Of course there is. Not only that, but insurance companies will not insure you if there's not an outlet to have a resource to put a fire out, to save their investment in your property, if you will. So if there's not a fire source here, a source to get water to fight the fire, our insurances are going to go through the roof, therefore, again, knocking down the property value.
So a lot of questions remain unanswered still. I'll continue to keep tabs on this story and search for answers for you.